Welcome everyone. We are here to talk about Animate. Now the version of Animate that I have is Animate CC. The version that you may have might be just Animate, or if you are using remote access, then you're going to have, I think, Animate CC as well. It's hard for me to tell because I don't know exactly what you guys are using and what you're not, or what you have access to, or what you see exactly. So here's what I'm going through with setting up Animate. For a lot of you, it might be the first time that you've opened this up or have played around with it. So we're going to talk about the basics for right now. So once you open up Animate, this is kind of the scene that I wanted you to show me for a previous assignment, just to prove to me, show me evidence that you actually have access to the program. Not that it's just an icon on your screen or it says that it's been downloaded, but I wanted you to open it up. That way I know there's no issues, no problems with starting up this program. Just because there's an icon on your desktop doesn't really mean that there's not more steps that have to be done. So this is what I wanted to see. Once you open up Animate, you're going to be greeted with kind of a scene similar to this. And what I want to do is go ahead and set up my canvas, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Templates, and it opened up another window on my other monitor, so I'm going to drag it over here. And I've got a bunch of pre-made templates right here. That's great. But I'm going to go to General, and in General, I see I have different options here. What we're going to be working in is going to be called Action Script. So by default, what I'm doing right now is making a default canvas, or basically what they call it in Animate is a stage. Okay, your stage is what we're going to create here. So Action Script is what I want. So make sure that that is highlighted. Action Script 3.0. You might see Action Script 3.0 class. No, we don't want that. Just this right here. And we're going to go ahead and set the stage because right now this is not ideal, right? So I'm going to make this 1920 and our height 1080. That gives us a full HD definition, that's kind of redundant, full HD resolution. So I'm going to keep this as pixels. We're working with pixels and keeping my frame rate at 24 frames per second. That's pretty standard. I'm going to keep the background color as white. That can always be changed later once you're in a project. And then I'm going to create this as my default. I'm going to click right here. I'll make my default and then click OK. And so boom, here's my new stage. And I'm going to click. And it might, yeah, so here's my bar. I can kind of scroll. Obviously, my stage is too large for my workspace here. So, and I can also scroll right here up and down. Or scrub, I guess is the correct term that we would use. And what I want to do is scale this down. So you can zoom in, zoom out using this right here. I'm going to go to Fit in Window so I can see the full scope of my stage. This is the whole thing. How this is laid out, all right? So I've already tinkered around. I believe by default your stage is set up, or not your stage, but your workspace is set up something like this, okay? And this is kind of odd to me. So I'm used to Photoshop and Illustrator and other programs that the tool bar does not show up on the right side. So what I like to do is grab that toolbar up here by the handle and drag it over here to the other side. You don't have to do this, but I'm just showing you a way that you can kind of customize your workspace. So I'm going to drag it over here to the blue line and drop it. And you see it kind of bunches it up like this, and you can see it kind of separates it in different categories here. So what I want to do is scrunch that. I like to work with it kind of doubled up like that. You do how you want it to look. Your timeline is down below. This is where your action is going to be happening. And we work in layers on our timeline, kind of like you do with Photoshop, working with layers within your project. Same concept, it's just in a timeline format because obviously we're dealing with motion and time and we're animating. So that's what we're dealing with here. As your project builds and gets more complicated, your timeline, you might notice that it's more it's more, what am I trying to say? It's more convenient to expand this and be able to see more of your layers down here below. So just know using the double arrows between your windows can help you with that. So let's get into what we're looking at here. So we're in scene 1, right? So your scenes, you can arrange different parts of your animated movie. And scene 1 is typically where we start. And right here, you can control, which scene that you're in. We only have one scene, so that's all I really need right now. Let's say I wanted to add more scenes. Well, I don't have any tools up right now or presets up that can help me with that. So if you're looking for different windows or different tools that you need, go up here to where it says window, and what I want to look for is my option for scenes. And so here it is down below. And so I have scene, and now it just throws a window out there at random, like out in the middle of your world. And what I want to do is I can either just hide it, put it somewhere else. What I like to do is tuck it away right here. And yeah, it looks like this, but what this is actually, it lets you add scenes. So I can add a scene. So I can have multiple scenes. And I can order these scenes in whichever way I want, depending on the flow of my animation. So this is going to be something that's important for later. I just wanted you to kind of get that set up right now so I can see that, hey, you know where your scenes are. Another thing that comes in handy is history. History does the same thing. See, it has started to record some things that I've done with history already in Animate. So I've started working with my scenes here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to snap this up here. Actually, I'm going to snap it maybe above and throw it right there. So that's a pretty common symbol for history. It looks like, okay, here's where I'm at. I want to go back. And so it's kind of showing you an image. That's your history. If you're ever unsure of what something is, you can hover over it, just like in any other Adobe program, and it will tell you what you're looking for. And you have color swatches and so on up here. So all of that is pretty handy. If you want to tuck it away, just hit the double arrows and it will hide. Okay, so like Photoshop and like other Adobe programs that you work in, as you change your tools over here, your properties panel changes. Typically though, in Photoshop, your properties panel kind of shows up here. Well, to give you more space to work on your stage, it throws it off over to the side. So as you go to different tools like text tool or line tool, you see that your properties over here adjust, kind of showing you what you have, what options you have for that tool. So for the line tool, for example, I can adjust the stroke. That's what this is right here, stroke color, and this is the stroke. I can adjust the stroke thickness. I can adjust the look of that stroke, okay? So all my things dealing with stroke are here. There's no fill for stroke, so this is where it's kind of like Adobe Illustrator in a way, where you have tools that control the stroke, you have tools that control the fill, you have tools that control both, like one of these shape tools like this. So I can see that there is a stroke, a very fine stroke here on this tool. If I wanted to show what that is, so if I click on this, you can see that I can click on it once and it selects just one side of that stroke. If I double click on it, you see it highlights all of the stroke. I can then adjust that stroke and make it look how I want. Okay? If I select the fill, then I can adjust the color of that fill, right? And if I select something like this, and I'm just using my selection tool, and I want to do something with this, I can take it and drag it, but look, it left the rest of it behind. So I'm going to Control Z. If I want to select this stroke, I can grab that and drag it. I can undo that. If I want everything to be selected, I can double click on it right in the middle and move the whole thing. If I want, I can click and drag on something and move the whole thing, or do whatever I want with it. Another way to select things is using your lasso tool, and I can do that and move it wherever I want. Another thing you can do is select just part of something and move it where I want. Got it? Pretty self-explanatory. There's also other ways that you can adjust your shapes, like I use this. This is a sub-selection tool, and I can take that and stretch it, and I can deform this and move it how I want. So there's that. Anyways, moving on, I'll get into the tools a little bit more later. What I want to talk about here is how we're going to set this up. So I moved this toolbar over here. I can adjust this how I want. You can move your properties. You can move your things. Oh man, what happened here? Let me move that back where it was. There we go. Let's say I have it set up the way I want it. I like the way this looks. What you can do is up here, right now it says I'm still in Essentials. There's different workspaces. Maybe one of these works for you. You can check these out, and maybe it has a layout that you agree with and one that you like. Then you can stick with that. If you are going for a more customized look, you want to make it just the way you want it, you can go here where it says New Workspace, and I can do, I'll just name it Fulton Custom and OK. So now I'm working in a Fulton Custom workspace. So whenever I open this, by default, I set my stage to open up at 1920 by 1080, which if I come out here and use my selection tool and I select my stage, this is what pops up. I can change that later, so if you want to change your stage size to something else, you can do that right here. You can change the background color as well to whatever you want. So that is completely up to you. I usually just start off with something pretty simple, and that way I can customize it later. Frames per second, we're pretty much always going to be working in 24. If we want to work in a lower frame per second, then we will change the style in which we animate in our timeline. So I'm not going to tinker with that at all. Anyways, this is kind of just the quick run through, opening up Animate, kind of getting the basics of selection tools, some certain ways that your shape tools work, and then we'll get into more about the tools and functioning with a timeline and how to get that working for you in the next step. So for right now, just go ahead and set up your own space here and customize it, and we'll move on from this. Thanks, guys.